Shalom, welcome back to Code Searcher. Okay guys, I know it's been a couple of weeks and so I'm going to try to get this one out to you. It's one of several I've been looking at and getting requests to check it out. It's the Dome of the Rock. You see our access term here. Um, just ignore the messages I get. You're dinging and whistling. I've done videos on the third temple and so this is another angle that I'm looking at here. Well, one thing that stood out in this, it was judgment here 3 times. We've got Meshephet right there, and there. It's in the plain text, as well as war is here. You'll see it as an ELS here. You see it ELS twice and then in plain text once. Occasionally it's in the plain text 3 times, but the pattern is it's there 3 times. Judgment has been there 3, sometimes 2, and I haven't figured that pattern out yet. One thing, or one reason I wanted to come to this is because it's a focal point. Israel is the center of the earth, Jerusalem the center of Israel, the Temple Mount is the center of Jerusalem, and it is a place of thorn in the side to some. It is a very touchy area. Most of the state of Israel don't even want to address the situation. It's only the religious Jews that want the third temple. Most of the government believe that the third temple coming in would embolden Christians because they know it's part of the end days, the prophecies that are around that. Some people believe that there cannot be a third temple unless the Dome of the Rock is removed. There are some of us believe that the Dome of the Rock is not exactly where the temple sat. That's wrong. I think it's in Ezekiel 8. There's a place where it talks about those 25 men who bow toward the east with their back toward the temple and pray to their God. That sounds like Islam to me. But there's also a part in there where Ezekiel is standing. We're giving coordinates, actually a position where he is. He's standing by a particular altar, looking out a window, and he sees an image, and it's offensive to God. And I'm paraphrasing here. I have a theory that that image he sees is the Dome of the Rock, so which means the temple and the dome would be sitting side by side. This would make sense if you understand that we're talking about 2 seeds here, 2 covenant sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Both were circumcised. That's why we see upon the threshing floor, and that is exactly what the Temple Mount was in ancient times, a threshing floor. How appropriate for the end days. That it's a place of struggle. And we're going to see that more and more. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because Glazerson here recently has been posting a lot about war, atomic war, Gog and Magog, Obama, the Temple Mount, some of the feasts. He's talking about Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot. He's talking about Pesach, the Passover, and Elijah. By the way, it is expected that Elijah would appear in one of these feasts, Sukkot or Passover. They actually set a place and a cup for Elijah. So he's been speaking about all of these subjects, which is really concerning to me. Gives me an idea of what the religious Jews, even though that they're lost, folks, they still understand the times that we're in, even though they're looking through a very narrow hole. I can see from his postings that he does understand the times that we're in, and it almost seems frantic sometimes, the things that he's putting out. Atomic war is a big thing right now. 2015, 2016 as well. Some of you saw me post on Facebook his posting about those years. We've been talking about that for 3 years. The fact that those 2 years stand out significantly more than others. Not that others do not appear. Others do appear. 2012 was a turning point. So we're seeing patterns. 2017, 2018, 2022. Just so happens each one of these have seems to be a benchmark in the sky, blood moons, triads, things like that, that make it stand out even more. Shemitah, another thing that's significant here. It's also in this table, crossing itself, by the way. You can see Shemitah here, crossing itself on that tet right there, twice. And it's interesting clustering of words here too, because we're talking about Abraham, the two seeds. You see Abraham in a light purple going through here. Isaac is in here in the plain text. I didn't highlight it. I realize that now. It'll come to me in just a minute. But Ishmael is here, right here, tucked in with Islam. You can see, and all this is tight clustering. Shemitah is crossing over Israel, sharing that shin right there. But you have Israel in the blue crossing itself in the plain text with the resh. So it's like an X focusing on a point with another X, Shemitah, crossing itself. We've got the Temple Mount in white here. Also the year 2015 in purple up here in just one line. So this is screaming that this year is very significant. It's the same thing in the other table about the third temple. 2015-2016 time frame seemed very, very significant. I've got the word Turah here, Yom Turah. Sound the alarm. This is the blowing of trumpets here 3 times. Sukkot, another feast with the name Obama right there. It's sandwiched in between the Vav and the Bet in that name. By the way, Sukkot is traditionally to the Jews believed to be the time of Gog and Magog. They're not looking for Psalm 83. They're looking for Gog and Magog. To us, it is Armageddon. And they've even, some of the posts that these rabbis have been making have been directly connected to Ezekiel 38. Ephraim Ben Ezra, the code searcher I've talked about, was making videos 2 years ago about this particular verse having a connection to Obama. They have a different view of Obama than we do. Some of us do. Some of us see him as the forerunner of the AC. And let me just say I'm not 100% on that, even though it may seem I've been that way, but there's been no other person that contends with him on that. They look at him as the serpent, the snake, a spoiler. The betrayer is another word they've used. All of these things add up, and it points to a particular direction. We have his name up here connected to the nations. You see the nations in here, the Goyim. We've got Obama. Aleph, Bet, Mem, Hey. Is Obama written backwards there with the Pope connected to the Hey on the front side of the Gentiles. So we've got Obama and the Pope connected to the nations in that. We've also got the Mekdush, which is the temple in blue, spacing across there. Obama's name again here, sitting on the word judgment. Down at the bottom, we've got testimony. Thought that was interesting. But also the word tandem in Hebrew, which means side by side in the black and red, just crossing right over that. So that seems to be indicating something significance, some significance in a temple and a dome being side by side. Now, I'm just saying this is theoretical. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is the direction I've been looking for this. And again, this is a focal point for the end of days. And by the way, we have end of days in this verse right there in the plain text in Isaiah, I believe it is. Yes, right there, Hayamim, right there. We also have got, and it's behind my picture, Hine Yamim Baim, which is behold, the days are coming. Another phrase that God had been showing me in some of these tables. So we've also got really interesting this verse here in Deuteronomy that speaks about plagues of God, but we've got the word Ebola, and that just came to me when I read the verse, crossing right over that with Elijah there. Of course, he will be one who calls down fire and plagues and does things to the earth. We've got the Holy of Holies here. Also connected to Obama's name, I forgot to mention, is Masrim, which is the Egyptian, right there in his name. Seems he has a connection every time to Egypt. Go figure. So there we go. That's all of the plain text we have. Let's go through the verses now. And this very first one is in the Exodus. We're in the 31st chapter, verse 7. And bring the English up. And this is talking about the tabernacle of God. But this is really interesting because the hay and the Temple Mount are resting in this verse, speaking about um, the tabernacle. Verse 7 says, in the tabernacle of the congregation, in the ark of the testimony, the mercy seat is thereupon, and all the furniture of the tabernacle, and the table of its furniture, and the pure candlesticks. So it's talking about the tabernacle, which was the temple before the temple. This is where they were in the wilderness. They were worshiping God. By the way, they still have the place where they can put up the tabernacle. Some say they are. Some say they are already sacrificing animals to practice. The Kohanim are practicing for the temple. Doesn't matter. They're sacrificing animals. They're looking for the red heifer. They're doing all of these things. If you're following, Temple Institute, that are indicating they're very close to having a temple there. So it all seems to be playing in to what's going on. But here we got a verse here connected to both the Temple Mount and the temple, referring to the tabernacle. Now, is that what we'll see? Is this where the abomination of desolation will be set up? I don't believe so. I believe it will be physically a temple. This will be some sort of global celebration. Many dignitaries, can you imagine? Oh, they're trying to steal the glory, saying, look what we've done. We've united the Palestinians in the Muslim world with the Christians and with the Jews, and da-da-da-da-da-da, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You see where I'm going. Uh, Televised worldwide. Pope's there. They're all just, it seems like we could be headed that direction. The other thing to that is it could spark the war, the nuclear battle, when all come against Israel could be a focus on what happens at this Temple Mount. This next verse, like I said, had Ebola running through it. It is where it's talking about, and it's in Deuteronomy 28:58, about plagues and pestilence. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law written in this book, that thou may fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, and even the great plagues of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon all the diseases of Egypt. And by the way, just because we have Ebola there does not mean that's the only plague. We're talking about plagues. When we've done the video Plagues Unleashed, we found Ebola, some other things, but we're talking about more than one. It just happens that that's the one Lord gave me at that moment, and it's there. So we're seeing here in the verse that it's running through all of these things. The power that Elijah will have, he will call these things down. The world will see plagues and famine and pestilence and suffering. But here it is, connected to the Dome of the Rock. And here we are in 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. Here these sevens keep coming up. We'll start at verse 13. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. And I will be him for a father, and he shall be to me a son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee, and thy house and thy kingdom shall be made sure forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. And he's talking about David here in this. And of course, Solomon came from David. David did sin against God, and he used Solomon to build the temple. And we see that verse coming up here. And by the way, the sin of David, and if you can see in the end of days table, Nathan comes to David and says, talks about the lamb, the man that stole the lamb from the poor man, and really just kind of taking what he didn't need It was a reference to him with Bathsheba, and he pronounced judgment on himself. But the key to this is Nathan told him, the sword will never depart from thy house. And that's exactly what we're seeing today with Islam. I'm not bashing a religion. I'm just showing you biblical evidence that Islam plays a part in the end of days connecting to the temple. And it all goes back to sins of the nation. Before even the kings, David sinned against God and brought judgment against the nation. Abraham asked something of God did not want to do, because he loved Abraham, he blessed him anyway, gave him what he wanted, and now we have the problem of Ishmaelites, the Amalekites, and Islam that come against their half-brother, and that's what it is. Ishmael was the half-brother, and so he has been the thorn in the side of the nation since the beginning. So when we're reading Psalm 83, it's been like that for 3,000 years, folks. It's nothing new that these nations want to destroy Israel. This is something that goes back to Abraham. This next verse I got highlighted is in Amos, the 8th chapter, and we'll start at verse 11 and 12. And this is where it says, Hine Yamim Baim. Wait a minute. Sit here talking, and I didn't even read the verse in Isaiah. I apologize. Here we go. We're in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, verse 1, and then we'll go to Amos. Just a second, folks. Hit the wrong button. Like I said, this is Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1. Here we are right here. Chapter 2, verse 1. And the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days, that is now, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains in the last days. Isaiah existed 700 years before Christ, so we're talking 2,700 years ago. Isaiah was writing about the last days, the third temple, and it shall come to pass in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established at the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. And many people shall go and say, Come, let us go upon the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob, and he shall teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And this is really interesting, because this is where we're headed. And he shall judge among the nations. And we're talking about Yeshua. He shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither they learn war anymore. That's to come. Has not happened yet. So now we go to Amos. And folks, by the way, I can relate to Amos in many ways. I love this minor prophet here. And I hate to call him minor. It's such a term that takes away from who he was. But here we are. In the 8th chapter, 11th verse is where we'll start. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will send famine in the land. Not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but the hearing of the word of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east, and they shall run to and fro, seek the word of the Lord, and they shall not find it. And in that day, fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. Could this be 5 virgins? This next verse is also, it's Haggai, chapter 1, verse 8, is what I have highlighted. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. Now, there's going to be some that says, well, there's the third temple, that's for the Antichrist. This is not, it's not some God sanctioned. Let me just remind you, everything God said will happen, will, and everything is in his control. Um, we know that there will be a third temple. It will be destroyed by a earthquake. Yeshua will bring another temple with him in his kingdom, and that will be set up for 1,000 years. So there will be a third temple, and even a fourth temple. Um, so we're talking about prophecy being fulfilled, not the looking of a third temple so we can go sacrifice and worship God, and that, because we are the temple of the Lord. Okay, but there are things that are going to be fulfilled for the sake of the Jewish people. God's going to turn his eyes back to them in the last days, and then we're definitely seeing the ground being laid for that. So that is it for this video, guys. I got a couple other things I want to talk to you about. One is this Rosh Hashanah table that I've been working on that is pretty interesting. We'll be talking about that as well. Also, but let me not forget, there is a book out already, a collaboration, if you will, between myself and Luis Vega. He's more the collaborate, and I'm the shun. You can see there, but he did a very well job. When I researched it and was trying to put this together, they were talking somewhere in between $80 and $90, and he's got it at $23.67. So praise God for that. It's about getting the word and the tables out. I could care less about being an author. That's not why I'm here. I just want to get the information out. But you can get it now. Luis has got over 100 charts there, and I'm thankful for you, Luis. Luis has also been the reason I've been able to get this presentation together, and also Tammy Howard, who's been helping me put together this presentation for Prophecy Club. We're at 99 slides so far in this. I'm expected to speak 2 days, approximately 5 hours altogether, and that's coming up March 14th and 15th in Dallas, Texas, and I'll be talking more about that later and giving you some information for those that want to come and join us and see it live. The DVDs that are recorded from that will be made available at this ministry. Praise God. Professionally done. I realize that Prophecy Club, Stan Johnson, does have his own views on the tribulation, the rapture, things like that. Not every speaker from the Prophecy Club were all on board with the same beliefs, and I'm no different. We agree to disagree on things. I'm willing to learn whatever God is teaching me, and whatever God reveals to those folks, it is well received. We're not here trying to force anything on anybody. So for those of you that have messaged me and said, did you realize this? Yes, I did. And I've already considered that. The point in this is to getting the information out, not dividing over marginal issues that have nothing to do with salvation. Okay, so that's where I am on that. So God bless you guys. God bless those that are supporting this ministry, that are encouraging me, that you message me and keep up with me. Linda Escobedo, if I'm not seen in a few days, she comes by and pokes me with a stick and makes sure I'm still breathing. So I'm thankful for her as well. So praise God. Guys, there's the book. He beat me to it. It was probably a better job than I can do, but it's there. The information's out, and you can get that if you like. I'll leave the link to that at the bottom of this video. So there you go. God bless you guys. See you in the next video. Shalom.